Hello and welcome to Hooting Mandrills. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Sam.
And today we're going to be talking about Aetherdrift cards. In this video specifically, our special guests and face commanders.
So these are the special guests that are new to Arena and the 4 face commander cards of the Commander Precon decks that go with Aetherdrift. These cards are new to Historic and Timeless. Starting off with Commander favorite Bone Miser. 4 and a black for a 4/4 zombie wizard. Basically, waste not on your own discards. Whenever you discard a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie. Whenever you discard a land, add black. And whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. So this is going to be a little expensive for Constructed a lot of the time, but I think it might have a chance because of the card Necrodominance in Historic. Maybe some sort of like 8 Necro Black Devotion Shell in Timeless. I'm not sure. But, you know, you don't have to play too many of a 5-drop. You can Crucius for it. Crucius also has some discard synergies. If you can get this into play with some sort of Necro and enough life total to really shove, you're going to discard a lot of cards, produce a lot of mana and zombies. Maybe you can discard enough Alms of the Vein, or maybe you can put enough zombies into play and a Yara or something in play that this will win you the game. I'm not sure. It does an interesting enough thing that it might be good in some sort of combo deck like this, but it is 5 mana.
Yeah, 5 mana for a 4/4 is a little rough, but the ability's very good. You may be able to do some silly things and, you know, kind of win on your end step with Necrodominance. Yeah, I definitely could see this card being played, but obviously the 5 mana is the biggest issue. Okay, up next we have Chandra's Ignition, which is 3 red. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each other opponent. So this is sort of just a commander card, board wipe that leaves you with a creature, but, you know, it's kind of risky. If they kill your creature in response to you casting this, then you just do nothing.
Yeah, it is a red 5-drop. You can find it off Crucius, but it feels a lot riskier than playing a card like Gix's Command or Damnation if you want a Damnation or
Languish,
Shadow's Verdict.
Yeah.
any other board wipe that you would put in your deck to find off of Crucius or just in general. I think this is a little bit more of a brawl card. Up next is a card that is also not a historic card, but because it is getting pre-banned there. Chrome Mox. 0 mana artifact, imprint a non-artifact, non-land card from your hand, and assuming that card is not colorless or devoid, that was what they meant non-artifact to mean back when this was written. It is a Mox for any of the exiled cards' colors. Fast mana, it's good, folks.
Yeah, so Timeless, this is gonna probably slot into every single deck. Doesn't go in every deck in Legacy, but Timeless doesn't have the same tools that Legacy has, and I don't really think that there's any deck that just doesn't want 4 of these. There's no real fast mana options in Timeless right now that's equivalent to this, so yeah, I mean, it speeds up every single deck. I can't imagine anyone wouldn't play it.
Going down a card isn't nothing, but it seems pretty important. Whether you're a control deck and you're trying to get your mana drain up
to stop the grief on turn 1. It's like you gave up a card, but you also are getting, you know, 4 mana. Is it 5 mana? I don't know how much grief costs. I should. But
4. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, you're like avoiding getting your opponent just grief or sticking a Necro on you turn 1. Like, I've played a lot of games where it's like, well, if you have Spell Pierce, I'm probably going to lose, but these decks usually don't play Spell Pierce. Maybe they should. Dark Ritual Necro, it hit. I guess we're still playing, although I'm not sure it's the best use of either of our time once that has happened. Yeah, being able to hold up counter magic faster, even in Timeless, seems important. Just like 2 mana to even do something like Guide Pride on 1. It feels like a big deal. You know, I've played a lot of Dark Ritual. I feel like I will probably play this also. And mana bases are going to take a little bit of figuring out. Obviously, great in any sort of Belcher or Spy deck.
Where you just get 4 more free mana in your
and
deck.
Everything imprints to it. There's not even the risk of the land spell mix as much.
But even Chalice of the Void stops Necro too. If you are on the play and you can Chalice on turn 1, then they can't ritual into Necro.
That is true.
So that's pretty powerful. I mean, there's a bunch of decks that want to play what. It's not just against your deck. Any deck that is trying to play a 1-drop is now
which is
at a
a lot of yes. Chalice on 1 is a big deal. I'm not sure about whether this enables something like the Legacy Red Prison archetype. The only soul land we have is Uggin's Labyrinth. Uggin's Labyrinth asks for different things than Chrome Mox. The cards that imprint to Uggin's Labyrinth do not imprint profitably to Chrome Mox, and vice versa. So if you're trying to turn 1 Blood Moon people, you might need to be some sort of Rakdos deck playing Dark Ritual.
It also makes Blood Moon worse against every other deck, because now there's another source of color for every other deck.
Mana that doesn't get mooned. But yeah, definitely a big deal for Chalice, for a lot of decks in the format.
Yeah, I think every deck's playing this. Okay, up next we have Galvanic Blast with the silliest art I've ever seen on a Magic card. Maybe not, but we know what Galv Blast does. 1 red, deal 2 to any target. If you have Metalcraft, it deals 4. Metalcraft is having 3 artifacts. So this card's sick, obviously. It's going to see historic play. No Great Furnace still. Not sure when we're going to be seeing the rest of our artifact single-colored lands, but we hope to see them soon. But yeah, Galv Blast is going to be sick.
A lot of cards that it goes well with in the format. No Great Furnace, but yes, Seat of the Synod, Vault of Whispers, Darksteel Citadel, Bridges.
All the tap lands, yeah.
You have cards like Shrapnel Blast and Ensoul Artifact, that artifact-y aggro stuff.
And in the Timeless, you get the Mox, too, so that's an artifact. Okay, next up, we have, I'm going to butcher this, Hashaton Scarab's Fist, which is a white and a black for a legendary zombie wizard 1/3. Whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 and a blue. If you do, create a tap token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. So the ability is pretty cool. Obviously works in pretty good synergy with things like Psychic Frog, where you can discard for free, or, you know, Troll of Khazad-dûm with the Swamp Cycle. A little expensive for Troll of Khazad-dûm because you need to have it as you discard, so you already need to have 4 untapped mana on the Swamp Cycle to make this work. But it also doesn't take it out of your graveyard, so you could double up, do this, and persist, you know, as well.
Yeah, and it's a powerful thing to be doing. It's a little expensive. You either need to untap with 2 2-drops and 3 mana, or you need to have something like 4 mana up to discard. I thought we might be getting Street Wraith in these special guests, which I was excited for as a Hollow One enjoyer, but that did not end up happening. Would have made this card better too. You see people trying like these sort of Esper, Frog, Discard Matters, Diviner of Fates type shells from time to time. The biggest worry with this card is that it's maybe just a little too expensive, and maybe it's competing too much for space in those kind of decks, just because Sorin Imperious Bloodlord into Elenda Saint of Dusk is just so fucking good. And maybe the persist stuff is just not where you want to be, the unearth stuff, in comparison to just doing that.
I definitely see that as quite possible. It's also hard to keep 2 2-drops alive at one single time. You know, having your Psychic Frog and your Hashaton at the same time is not going to be easy. Your opponent's going to try and kill them. So not a ton of black decks in Historic right now, right? I mean, you would know better than me.
There are more. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of the Sorin Elenda thing in somewhere in the Esper space. Sometimes they're Dimir with Frog, sometimes they're Orzhov, sort of like those black-white Blinky decks that you see in Modern. Sometimes they're Esper and trying to do, like I said, this sort of Frog, Diviner of Fates, Discard Matters thing, which is where a card like Hashaton would fit. I think those decks are quite good. I think Hashaton has a lot of competition in them, but the power levels may be there. This card could see some play. It's cool,
I definitely think it's a good card. It's powerful, it's fun, but whether or not it's tier 1, we'll see because of just how powerful the other cards in the format are. But I still think it's great to have it. All right, up next we have Lord of the Undead, reprint for, you know, nondescript black. Other other zombie creatures get +1/+1 to 2/2, and then also activated ability 1 and a black, tap, return target zombie card from your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think this card probably doesn't quite hack it in Historic. There is like some zombie activated ability cauldron-y stuff that you could be doing there, some sort of Warren Soul Trader combo. Although lack of Gravecrawler is rough for that, and it sort of just ends up being worse at doing the same thing than a Johnny Goblin Bombardment stuff in the energy decks.
To your hand is also not as powerful as back to the battlefield, so you already have to pay 2 mana, and then you have to replay the card that you brought back. So it's just an old card. It's just not as good. I'm sure that the Brawl Zombie Kindred players will toss it in their decks, but I don't really see this as a Historic or Timeless playable card.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, though.
Yeah, it's just sort of not what the format's about right now, and a little bit outclassed by some of its competition. Next, we have Pathbreaker Ibex. 4 and 2 green for a 3/3 goat. Whenever this creature attacks, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So, I mean, this is a commander card. It's like backup Craterhoof Behemoth.
Craterhoof at home, but you need to use Arena of Glory to make it have haste, so that's no good. And like, you know.
Yeah. If you're a Brawl player and you want redundancy of your Craterhoofs, you'll play this, I assume, because commander players do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have reprinted it, but yeah, it's not super exciting.
I think the problem in Commander is that you only get 1 of each card. So like if your win condition is Hoof and you're only green, you don't have the other Hoofs, like the white one that they printed in Murders or whatever that set that they printed it in was. Yeah, so boring. Who cares about Commander? On to the next.
All right.
Speaking of not caring about Commander, we have Nalaar, Chief Mechanic for Teamer, 2/4 Legendary Human Artificer. Whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get 2 energy. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 or more energy. If you do, create an XX colorless vehicle artifact token named Nalaar Aetherjet with flying and crew 2, where X is the amount of energy spent this way.
So there is some energy stuff going on in the Teamer colors instead of, the Mardu colors, which is what the energy shell usually is. I'm not sold on this card. Trying to make all the different things work, either getting your vehicles, crewing them up and hitting with them, or playing a bunch of other artifact-y stuff to turn it on. I think it's hard to cast. It's 3 mana. I think this one is kind of a dud.
Yeah, this card seems bad to me. I don't know. I mean, I guess the advantage in Commander is they're printing all of these new busted green cards that aren't coming to Arena, like the Landfall that gives you 2 energy for Landfall. Like, that seems powerful with this card in Commander, but I don't think that this card can be constructed playable with the tools that we have at the moment. I mean, just vehicles are bad unless you like have a way to make them not bad, or they are good. Being a vehicle just for the sake of dodging board wipes is really not good enough. So yeah, I don't see this card as constructed playable.
Moving on to the other face commander for the Teamer deck is one that I think might be a little bit more constructed playable. Saheeli, Radiant Creator. Still hard to cast, 4 mana including Teamer for a 4/4. Whenever you cast an Artificer or Artifact spell, you get an energy. That's pretty hard to turn on also, but it also does Saheeli things, and Saheeli things are busted. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, create a token that's a copy of target permanent you control, except it's a 5/5 artifact creature in addition to its other types, and has haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So we talked in the Duskmourn Alchemy set review about fear of change, and one of the cards that we mentioned with it was Amped Raptor, which is a stupid, busted card that probably shouldn't be in Historic and has a lot of its value value front-loaded. The body's not irrelevant, but potting it up into a 4-drop is probably better a lot of the time. There's also old standard Menace Rogue Refiner from the old Teamer Energy days. Most of its value is on ETB, a card that I think is not in paper and just barely anyone remembers exists. Long Tusk Stalker, just 1/1 cat, 1-drop that does energy stuff. And Saheeli kind of makes me think that maybe I'm not embarrassed to put some of these cards in my deck. That
I don't know about the Long Tusk Stalker, but
like maybe I am going to take seriously the idea that I can play some sort of Teamer variant on energy, play Attune with Aethers and tune the narratives, and just like value pod Fear of Change. Like making a copy of Fear of Change that then hits and then dies is pretty good. You can probably produce enough energy that you don't really need to worry about Amped Raptoring into this, like how it was with the Ring in Modern. I don't know. Do I think it's going to eclipse the existing energy shells? Probably not, but I think it's worth trying. If you're good enough at energy production and like this sort of gameplay, or want something a little bit different out of energy as a mechanic.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's good. I think that if we're going to have to deal with energy, I guess we should stretch it out across all the colors and
also
not just make it one possible.
Using this thing on Amped Raptor, if you have the energy, if you have the 3 energy to start with, is not that bad. You get to like Cascade, but you spend 3 energy, you get 2 back, you get to swing in with a 5/5 first strike. It's all right.
Yeah. Plus you can play artifacts and just get energy as well.
Yeah, the Solar Transformer, the Energy Mana Rock, is also a card that you're not necessarily embarrassed to put in your deck.
I mean, maybe Talisman comes back. I mean, people aren't really playing Talisman right now, but getting an additional energy off of it seems good, right?
Oh, Unstable Amulet. Yeah,
Amulet, sorry. Yeah.
That's a card. All right, here is another card. This one costs 5 mana.
Canceled.
Yep. Temmet, Naktamun's Will, 2 and Esper for a 4/4 zombie wizard. Vigilance, Menace. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. This is a commander card. Like, we talked about another 4/4 zombie for 5 that, like, you could squint and see maybe a playable card because it maybe just combo kills them the turn it comes down. This does not do that. This is like expecting the game to go on a lot longer with this on the board after it has come down, and constructed games are just not like that.
I mean, even for Brawl, we're missing too many of the powerful zombie cards that would like allow a commander player to play this card. So yeah, this card just a dud on Arena. I mean, maybe one day. And that's it. That's our special guest cards. Stick around for our set proper recaps and like, comment, subscribe.